It's Nick, the ASMR nerd. And today I've got a doozy of a keyboard build lined up. One that I am very excited about. One that I hope you enjoy for its aesthetic qualities, because this is a beautiful looking kit, and for its auditory qualities, because I bet it's going to sound great as well. Today's mechanical keyboard build comes from IQUNIX. I've called them IQUNIX in past. I thought it was maybe a play on iconic, like IQUNIX, but the general consensus among other YouTubers seems to be that it's IQUNIX. So that's what I'm going to be calling them going ahead. IQUNIX is a mechanical keyboard manufacturer that has made quite a name for themselves for their bold designs, their high quality builds. And I've had the pleasure of unboxing and reviewing a few of their keyboards in the past, and I've always come away suitably impressed. In fact, my keyboard of the year last year was an IQUNIX board, the OG80 Wormhole. Still love that thing. Great board. Today we have something perhaps even more exciting, even more special. Within this unassuming black box, we have IQUNIX's latest keyboard, their IQUNIX Super TILLY 60. It's part of IQUNIX's new Super series, which is a series of keyboards that are designed to be even more innovative, even more premium than their typical products, designed to really push the boundaries of design. So that's pretty exciting. The TILLY 60 is, as the name suggests, a 60% keyboard offered in the HHKB layout, which is a somewhat popular layout amongst mechanical keyboard enthusiasts, though not so much in the mainstream. It's a bit different than your typical ANSI layout, as you'll see once we get into it, but it's a very fun one. It's very aesthetically pleasing as well. Within this box is a kit for the TILLY 60. It is sold as a kit that you assemble, and that's what we'll be doing here today. There are no keycaps or switches inside, but I've got some of my own here. On keycap duty, I've got my MT3 Cyber set. This is Drop's MT3 profile, which is kind of retro inspired spherical profile keycaps. I really love the feel of MT3 caps, and the Cyber set looks incredible. I think it's going to look even better on this board. They're made of ABS, acrylonitrile butadiene styrene plastic. And for switches today, we have some ACE switches from TTC. TTC ACE switches, a wonderfully smooth, wonderfully stable linear. One of my favorite parts of that OG80 Wormhole from last year that I loved so much. Now, I'm going to put those in for now. It's possible I'll be swapping those out before the end of the video, because IQUNIX also has a new switch called the Moonstone switch, evidently a custom linear of theirs, which they wanted me to show to you. It hasn't showed up yet. We'll see if it does before I publish, but I would love to check that out too. So we'll see if that happens. Now, the reason I want to get this video out ASAP is because the IQUNIX TILLY 60 is in the group buy phase right now. So if you are interested in picking one of these up for yourself, you can put in an order with the group buy, I believe, until the end of August 2023. That's what I was told by the IQUNIX rep, at least. It originally ended mid-August, but I think they chose to extend it by a couple of weeks. At any rate, there will be links down below at the top of the video description where you can find a group buy for your region. And I believe they will be shipping come October 2023. That is my understanding. But we have this early sample here, which we are going to put together today. And yeah, I'm really excited. I am super excited for this build, you guys. So a big thank you, of course, to IQUNIX for supplying the TILLY 60 kit, this pre-release version, as well as those TTC ACE switches that we'll be using. So there's lots more I could say about this keyboard, but we will talk about it as we unbox, since you've already been very patient while I've rambled. So the TILLY 60, at least this early release version and probably the final retail version, comes in this very nondescript but classy looking black box with IQUNIX monogrammed on the front in foil, silver foil. There is nothing to be seen on any of the other surfaces. But let's be honest, if you are ordering this and receiving it, you already know what it is. You know what you've got. This is probably not the kind of thing that would sit on a store shelf. This is somewhat more bespoke, somewhat more niche than that. But because of that, we get this really nice premium feel and look to the presentation. It's got this matte black texture all over, which is lovely, but does blemish very easily. When I took this out of the plastic wrap it came in, it was pristine. Just through a little bit of handling, it's already starting to pick up some blemishes, but it doesn't matter so much. It's just the box after all. And it opens like so. Got a magnetic closure here. It flips open, and the inside is similarly minimalistic, isn't it? There's not a lot to see here, but it does look very nicely organized. We have 1 up here, 2 down here, and 3 over here. These are components of the keyboard and accessories because the case itself actually lives underneath. You can lift this layer out and you can see that underneath we have precautions. The precautions which warn us that the case is sealed in plastic and we are to inspect the case before removing the plastic. By removing the plastic, we accept that this is in acceptable shape. Now, this might seem a little extreme, especially if you are not familiar with the sort of enthusiast side of premium mechanical keyboards. But the condition that CNC machined and anodized aluminum cases arrive in can vary considerably, and enthusiasts tend to be very, very, very picky about even the slightest blemish, a slightest imperfection. So what IQUNIX is trying to do here is encourage you, or me in this case, to carefully inspect for any blemishes that might warrant a return or exchange before taking this thing out of the plastic wrap. So we will do that. But first, let's look at what we have here in all these nicely organized compartments. It's worth noting that I have the black version here. It is available in 3 other colors: white, dark gray, and silver. But I asked for the black to go nicely with the keycaps, as you will see. So they have these nicely numbered and organized, but they don't really, they don't really provide an easy way to get at them, but here they actually do. I'll lift out number 3 first. Put that over here. And then that lets us access the others. Number 2. Oh, there's a 4 underneath. Look at that. Number 1 still proving somewhat challenging to get out. There we go. So number 1 is this long and skinny black cardboard box. And inside, what shall we find? Truly, I do not know. As I stated earlier, this looks like final shipping packaging, but everything is still subject to change. Do bear that in mind. It is still in the group buy phase, and the product that ships later this year could be changed somewhat. Just important to note. Something is moving down. Oh, I think what is contained in here mimics the shape of the box in a sense. It is a long, skinny item, and we will find out in a moment what exactly it is. Very nice. So what we have here is a premium coiled cable. Look at that. A premium coiled cable. Now again, for those not familiar with the premium enthusiast mechanical keyboard market, you might wonder why the coil? The answer, my friends, is because it looks cool. Because it looks cool. Coiled cables are quite popular amongst enthusiasts, and it's This feels incredible already, you guys. And even more popular are coiled cables with LEMO connectors. LEMO connectors. That is precisely what we have here. So this is a kind of connector, which, as I understand it, is commonly used in aviation. But it is big and chunky. We've got these big, I think probably steel ends with maybe aluminum casing and knurling here. We've got this 4-pin connector here, plugs into this 4-pin female socket over here. They go together like so. It is grooved right here and right there so that it matches up a certain way. Oh, beautiful fit. And then we take this little knurled ring and there we go. Now we have our completed cable with the coil on the business end. This would be on your keyboard end. And if we remove this little cap, we have a USB Type-C connector for the keyboard. The cable itself here has an aluminum knurled housing, really premium feeling. We have this nice, soft, supple, but thick fabric sheathing on here. And on the other end, we have the same kind of sheathing with a rubber cable wrap here and another aluminum casing on the USB Type-A end, which plugs into your device, your PC, your laptop, or whatever. Again, we have another rubberized cap on here. Friends, this cable is as premium as they come. This is really nicely made. It feels heavy. It feels thick. All of the metal components are beautifully finished. Absolutely flawless. And, you would easily pay $50 or more for a cable of this quality on its own. So, and again, if you're wondering about this connector, I didn't really explain it, but it's just cool. It's just cool. It fits well, especially with the industrial design of this keyboard. And it is just more or less an aesthetic and stylistic flourish, like the coiled aspect. So, a beautiful, high-quality cable, though. Much more than I was expecting, I have to admit. And, of course, blacked out here to match our keyboard. I wonder if the cables are colored differently for the other colorways. Given the incredible attention to detail that IQUNIX shows, I would be very surprised if they weren't. All right, number two. What have we here? I see some tools. Now, number two came with a little window, a little plastic window piece, and that allowed us to see. Put this over here. This right here, which is an IQUNIX branded keycap puller and switch puller. It feels fantastic, you guys. It is, once again, solid aluminum. We've got a robust central handle here with IQUNIX branding on it. We've got pincer style switch puller on this end and a short but, you know, nice feeling wire style keycap puller on this end. I just realized I've got some paint on my thumb. If you guys are wondering what that's about, I was painting miniatures earlier, which I have not done in many a year, and that's a teaser for an upcoming video. I'm gonna leave it at that. But I had a lot of fun, and apparently I did not manage to get off all the paint on my fingers. Anyhow, nicest keycap puller slash switch puller I've ever felt or seen. This is extremely premium feeling. Another really nice pack-in from IQUNIX. Here we have a little, I guess it's a screwdriver, really. It's got a little, what is that? What is little hex tips. I don't know what the technical term for that is. It's a little star-shaped one. Presumably we will need that for assembling the keyboard, along with what I think is, gosh, I'm just trying to see, simple Phillips head maybe? They're very tiny. I have to take off my glasses. That's what happens when you get old, you guys. It's hard to see tiny things up close with my glasses on. Anyway, those will be for the assembly. Also, props to IQUNIX for fully recyclable packaging so far. Lots of cardboard. Really great to see. Behind door number 3, what do you think we have here? My guess is either the plate or the PCB. Or maybe not. This might be stabilizers, actually. Just judging by the sound of small, loose components sliding around in there. This could be screws and stabs. And indeed it is. Not quite done. Goodness. Okay, that's everything. Put that over here. So the premium presentation continues with some nice looking sealed baggies here, in which we have some stabilizers. Let's take a closer look at those. This kind of matte window here. So I'm going to be careful because there are screws, very tiny screws in here, because what we've been given are PCB mount screw-in stabilizers. So these will screw directly onto the PCB. We have the typical cherry style stems and housings, and our wires here are in a beautiful gold finish. Which will look phenomenal against that black case. Presumably the PCB is also black. The stabs themselves are sort of a smoky gray housings and stems. Very nice. Very premium feeling. You might be more familiar with the typical sort of clip-on plate mount stabilizers, and those can be very nice as well. But when you get into the very high end, it's almost exclusively screw-in stabs. Ostensibly, they are more stable, I guess, more secure. And we've got, as you can see, some little screws and a couple of other sets for backspace and enter. That is that. Very nice looking. We have some IQUNIX stickers in case you want to put them on your water bottle or what have you. We have a multitude, oops. Well, let's look at this since it seems to want to be looked at. This must be assembly instructions. Maybe not. Just precautions. Warranty and service. A 1-year warranty, as is typical. So that's more safety and warranty. I'm not sure if we will get a assembly guide. I think it'll be pretty straightforward, but we'll see. We'll see. We have a multitude, I was saying, of little paper envelopes. Little papery envelopes. I tell you, this whole kit was made for ASMR unboxings. This is amazing. These sound so nice. Designed by IQUNIX, each one with a little sticker seal. And inside, I believe we have another set of screws. I won't take them out right now, but you can see another set of screws, probably for the PCB. Here we have another such little envelope with screws, or maybe standoffs. I think these are standoffs in that gold color. That's my guess there. Another set of screws here, maybe for the plate. And here we have, I will unseal this one since it's not so small and liable to get lost. Here we have a USB receiver. Now this is simply an extender which allows you to plug this in, at the end of the cable on top of your desk so that you have better reception rather than just having this plugged into your tower or whatnot, maybe far away. So this extender is for use with the cable. And of course, this is to facilitate the wireless, the 2.4 gigahertz wireless connectivity. Now, this board is available, this kit, I should say, in either a tri-mode wired and wireless version that has USB Type-C wired, 2.4 gigahertz wireless, and Bluetooth, or in a wired-only version, which will save you, I think, $20 or $25 or so. This is the tri-mode wireless version, which is why it comes with the USB receiver. Okay, so here we have what I think must be rubber feet for the bottom of the keyboard, if I had to guess. And finally, we have what I must assume is for the gasket mount. The gasket mount. So this keyboard uses a gasket mount system which helps to isolate the plate and allow for a softer, flexier, more dampened typing experience. This is a popular mounting strategy these days, especially, well, I was going to say especially with more premium keyboards, but really we're finding gasket mount boards down in the sub $100 range these days. But like many elements found in today's budget keyboards, it's an innovation that came from the high-end enthusiast keyboard community. And I think that must be what this is for. That's my guess. Anyway, I sure do hope they have an assembly guide somewhere, because this is, well, not that many pieces, but it would be nice to know how they're supposed to go together. So in here, number 4, this will be where we find the plate and the PCB. The dampening foam, of course. The dampening foam. We'll take a closer look at each of these in just a moment. All right. No assembly guide to be found. I guess they figure we are smart enough to do this on our own. And I reckon we are. So here we have the brains of the keyboard, the printed circuit board PCB. As you can see, this PCB comes with hot swap sockets. Hot swap sockets. That's what all these little devices mounted on each socket are. And what that allows us to do is to plug in our switches without having to solder them in, and remove them without having to desolder them. So it is a very convenient and desirable feature to have. Again, something that originally was found mostly in premium keyboards, these days available across a wide range of price points, but very happy to see it here. The PCB itself is black and gold, as you can see. We have spots for our screw-in stabilizers here in gold. And I guess it's technically upside down. There we go. That's right side up. And it's looking quite lovely, isn't it? Very nice. In this compartment, we also got our plate, which is in another one of these nice paper envelopes. This we can pull out right now. You probably noticed the PCB is in an anti-static bag. You do have to be somewhat careful when handling any circuit board, just to ensure that you don't accidentally zap it with the electrostatic discharge that can potentially damage components, and in a worst case scenario, render it inoperable. The plate, though, if I can get it out, the plate has no such issue. Now, this plate is made of a material called FR4. FR4. And you can see that IQUNIX has designed it to be as flexible as possible. FR4 is a type of plastic that is known for being particularly desirable for its acoustic properties in mechanical keyboards and for its flexiness and bounciness. So you can see this keyboard has, first of all, mounts for the gasket situation, but also cutouts all over. We have cutouts in between each row so that each row flexes independently. You see that? Now, some of you might be thinking, why would you want such a flexy keyboard? The answer is the thock. It's for the thock. It's so that your keyboard sounds and feels deep and thocky and satisfyingly bouncy with each key press. Now, IQUNIX does offer other plates. You can get a polycarbonate plate, an aluminum plate, even a brass plate. I think maybe a POM plate as well. They've got lots of options. And each of those is going to have different acoustic characteristics and different mechanical characteristics. So, of course, the board ships with the FR4 plate here. But for, I think, between $20 and $40 a piece, depending on the material, you can get additional plates to alter your typing feel and sound. If you want a very firm, stiff, rigid typing experience, you could get a brass plate. It'll sound much clackier, feel much harder to bottom out on, but it will look amazing, I'm sure. Here we have the FR4, and as you can see, it looks pretty good too. It's got this beautiful gold edging all over it, which looks extremely premium and will look incredible in that black case. So, nice, flexy, bouncy FR4 plate by default. We'll put that over here. Gosh, we've got a lot of bits and pieces. And then this must be our foams. So the dampening foams are for exactly what they sound like, which is to say, dampening sound. They are another means of achieving that thock. They help to control the sound signature so that you don't have any unwanted hollow sound or rattle. It helps provide that nice, deep, thocky, melodious, marbly sound signature that is so sought after amongst premium mechanical keyboards these days. Okay. Once again, that might have been a bit loud, but it's very, very crinkly, that envelope. So this, I'm betting, sits in the bottom of the case. So that's a bottom foam. I'm thinking, anyway. And then this will sit on top of it, I suspect, because it's got all these little cutouts for the hot swap sockets. And then between our PCB and plate, I suspect we have this here. And then this will actually probably go underneath that, this will go on top of the PCB and provide a dampened impact point for each individual switch. And it's got the little spots to allow your switches to penetrate it, although interestingly it looks like these have a 3-pin access. Like you see, there's 3 holes here. We have one on each side and then that center post on the switch, but the actual contact pins don't seem to have been accommodated, but I suspect that's because they will just puncture right through when installing the switches. So fascinating. Okay, wow, this has been an odyssey so far, and we're not quite done yet. So we remove this section. We have a couple of foam spacers on the bottom. I think my camera's struggling to focus when it's all black stuff, all just these dark surfaces, no edges. And here, at last, is the case. So it comes nestled in this very plush foam cavity, which will protect it extremely well in shipping. This thing will not get damaged in shipping. And it comes wrapped in plastic, so it's hard to see every last detail because we've got a bit of glare. But this is a great opportunity to inspect it and ensure that there are no obvious blemishes, as IQUNIX has requested. So we've got something in here. Interestingly, we'll see when we open that up. But the TILLY 60 is designed with essentially a storage space up here that you can put things into, like a keycap and switch puller, like a USB dongle and extender, these sorts of things. Also, we clearly have a battery in here somewhere because we've got these little tabs which are preventing it from discharging until it's ready, or until we're ready for it. I don't see any signs of any blemishes here, you guys. No machining marks, no scratches or scrapes. This looks sublime. So let's open it up. Let's open it up. Here we go. No, I just don't want to accidentally puncture. Ooh, that's loud. I don't want to puncture through and accidentally scratch the case, but we will be very careful here. This is heavy. This has got some good heft to it. All right, off comes the plastic. And we are greeted with an impeccable looking design. Just gorgeous. So in case you hadn't gathered by now, the TILLY 60 case is made of aluminum, solid CNC machined aluminum. The silver, dark gray, and black versions are all in anodized finish, which looks very fine indeed. Very fine indeed. I see no flaws, no blemishes. An extremely consistent finish. The white variant has an E coating on it, which is a slightly different method of coating it, but I'm sure will have a similarly high degree of quality control. No branding to be seen on the back, but on this portion, the other back, I guess, no branding on the underside, perhaps I should say, but on the back here, we have a very subtle little IQUNIX logo. TILLY, the name of the keyboard. Super for the IQUNIX Super Series. 60%. Very, very stylish. And then, of course, our USB Type-C port. Up here on top, we have one small piece of embellishment. That is where it says 01, 01 on the top of this little storage compartment. So you could pop your USB dongle in there if you wanted, or any number of other small things. And this aluminum cover just lifts off. I don't know what the 1 stands for, truth be told, but it leads to this very understated but really, really amazing looking industrial design. And of course we have our media control knob over here. Oh, that thock, you hear that? Here, let's move that. Listen. Action on this is fantastic. It's all this one-piece column here, as is this sort of back section. And because we have that back section, this of course imparts an angle to the way this keyboard sits. It sits at a fixed 7 degrees. 7 degrees. You notice there are no flip out feet or anything to that effect. So what you see is what you get in terms of the typing angle. And looking here, I think what I see here is a battery in this compartment. A battery. And then a couple of screws to access that, as well as 4 screws on the back here in black. And then two spots for feet. And that is that. But what a beautiful, beautiful looking case. Nice weightiness to it. Very finely machined. And impeccable finish. No blemishes to be seen. All right, that is some grade A keyboard porn, my friends. And it's only going to get pornier. It's only going to get sexier from here. Because we're going to put this together, which is going to take a little bit of doing because, yeah, no assembly instructions, lots of pieces. I might look and see if there's anything available online, a PDF of some kind, just to make sure that we're doing this the right way. But first, let's make some space, clear off this desk, and get ready to build. Okay, my friends. All right. So I did not end up looking for an assembly guide. Instead, I just looked at all the parts, and I think I've puzzled out how this is going to go together. It's a fairly standard gasket mount style as far as I can tell. So what we are going to do is assemble this kind of like a backwards sandwich, sort of. Hopefully this is the correct way to do this. Otherwise I'll be pulling it apart and doing it again, but pretty sure this is what we've got to do. So for starters, I've removed the 4 screws, 1, 2, 3, 4, from the back plate here. There's the small black ones, like that, using the included little screwdriver. And we can then remove the back plate carefully so as not to scratch or blemish anything. And then we have just our frame here. And these, as you can see, are not battery tabs at all. I was completely mistaken about that. Those are ribbon cables. Ribbon cables. One from the media controller here, and one from the USB Type-C / battery compartment there. So there is a battery in here. Again, this is the tri-mode wireless version, and so I did take a peek in there, but then I sealed it back up, but I'll pull it out once more to show you really quickly here. But there is a sizable battery in there, and interestingly, it is not the flat phone style, but rather the round style, cylindrical. And I guess that's because they can get away with it. There's enough space in this design to do that. Normally, you'd get a more flat kind of phone style battery. I'm not sure if this is intended for holding screws, but this was in the same baggie as all the little gasket pieces. And I'm just gonna put the screws in there. I really don't know what it's for, if I'm being honest. But it's a great place to put screws in the meantime. So this just lifts out like so. Just another nice aluminum wedge. And in here we have the battery, which is nicely wrapped in foam once again to ensure that it's dampened, and has a little plug on it here, which I reckon we'll be plugging in right here. So here's a little tiny daughter board for the battery hookup and the USB Type-C connection. So this little ribbon cable will plug into our PCB, and of course this one will as well. But that all will come later. Here's the battery. Not quite sure what the capacity is, honestly, but I suspect it's more than adequate to last you for a while. I believe they claim 2,000 hours. Come on, get back in there. 2,000 hours of on time using Bluetooth and all the lowest power options. Bluetooth being lower power in terms of its requirements than, you know what, why am I putting this back in here? Let's just leave this off for now. Might as well, because we're going to need access here in a little bit anyway. So let's just, now that I've placed this back in here so carefully, let's just pull this out of here. And, oh my gosh, why have I made this difficult for myself? Come on. I should have just left it out. There we go. Not quite. Come on, you. There. It's not in there super tight, but it's just, there's some friction from the foam. So we'll just leave that out for now. So let's see what we can do here. So the gasket mount system is going to operate here on these little slots. And I am not positive if IQUNIX wants us to take the little adhesive gasket strips, these ones right here, and attach those to the PCB, or pardon me, the plate, or rather attach them, adhere them to the case. Now it seems to me like we probably want to adhere them to the case, because that then allows us to swap the plate freely with alternatives should we want to, and still have our gasket strips installed. So that's how I'm going to do it. And then these little aluminum pieces here will also receive gasket strips, and they go on top. So we go gasket strip here and there. We then insert the plate, the plate. Don't know why I'm having a hard time. Well, that's not going in because it's the wrong way around, but like so. It then sits on those gasket strips. Then we install 2 more gasket strips on these little shims, and then they go on top here, and we screw them in. We do that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times. So it's a little more complicated than perhaps your average mount, but the hope is that we get a very nice dampened sound by the time we're done, and a nice flexy plate. So these should just be adhesive strips, which should just pull off of here, I believe. Pretty sure. Although they don't seem to want to come off very easily. Come now. I think it's just a matter of getting it started. The subsequent ones will be easier, I hope. There. So let's install that here. Now this might prove to be challenging because, oh, yep, definitely. Okay. We've already got a problem where this one twisted is now adhered to the side of the case. That is definitely not what we want. Oh, and the adhesive is not coming with it. Okay, well, maybe this will change my plan. Maybe it'll be easier to do it the other way and install the gaskets onto the plate, because we've now got ourselves in a right pickle here. Okay, so I managed to get that little gasket strip out of there. Unfortunately, we kind of destroyed it in the process a little bit. Now the good news is I'm pretty sure that IQUNIX gave us actually an extra, so I think we still have enough. But and if we do have to use that one, we could if we still had to. But I'm thinking of changing my strategy here because as you saw, getting that in there properly is going to be a real trick. And I don't. Well, maybe we can do it. You know what? Let's try it. Let's try it again. I really do want to do it this way because if I do want to switch out the plates in future, I would rather the mount or the gasket strips be attached to the case. But it's going to take some very careful placement. The problem is that these things are extremely sticky. The adhesive is much stronger than I expected. And so they will just kind of stick to the first thing that they touch. And that's potentially a problem when you don't line it up right, as you saw. But learning nothing. I'm going to try this one more time. I'm just going to bring it a little closer to myself. This is where actually having a pair of tweezers would be helpful. I do think I have a pair of tweezers somewhere, but I'm just going to foolishly attempt to do this the hard way. And attempt to not screw it up. Oh, we've got a dangerous situation here. Okay. Okay. It really wants to twist into there. But I will not let it. I will not let it. Aha. Success. Now we only have to do that, 24 more times? 23 more times? It won't be so bad. It won't be so bad on these guys. These should be much easier. Because it's not a matter of getting the strip into a tiny little spot there. But, so as you can see, the strip does sit just up above that edge, which is important because otherwise the gasket itself is not going to really work. It needs to sit above the aluminum edge so that plate is softly resting on that gasket. The cutouts, I suppose, help in that regard too. So that looks good. In the interest of time, I might do this myself as opposed to forcing you to watch me struggle my way through every single one of these. Because otherwise this is going to be a very long video indeed. Very long video indeed. Okay, alright. So this is gonna play nicer. A little bit, sort of. It's slightly twisted in there. This might be a foolish thing for me to be trying to do, but it just seems to me that it makes a lot more sense to have these attached to the case rather than the plate, for the reasons I explained. All right, well, I am going to do that myself, and we'll come back together here in what will seem like just a second for you, but will be a bit of a struggle for me. And voila, here it is, completed. I, with some struggle, managed to install the gasket strips onto the case here. Hopefully I don't regret that at any point in this build, but I do think it's going to be the optimal solution here. Simply because, as I mentioned, it will allow me to easily swap the plate should I want to. Now, it's entirely possible that if you buy additional plate kits from IQUNIX, they might come with more gasket strips. I'm not sure. And the easier way to install these gasket strips would be, of course, to just adhere them to these little wings the edge of the plate. And if you end up getting this kit, I might recommend that you do that. It would be a lot easier. It was pretty finicky. I did have to make use of my tweezers here. And it was pretty finicky to get the strips into the little grooves here. But I think what I've got here should work pretty well. They're nicely positioned. They're very spongy, bouncy. So we shall see. Hope I don't regret that in the long run, but I think it'll work well. And then, of course, the other half of that was I installed strips on these little aluminum pieces. And ultimately, the plate will be positioned here, like so, and have a nice cushioned gasket mount on that side, as well as then have these in here, like so. Have a nice cushioned gasket mount on this side. And that should then isolate the entire plate PCB unit from the case. Basically suspend it between a sandwich of squishy foam, which should make for a nice, bouncy, flexy, dampened typing experience. That's the hope. Now, we actually have a couple of options here, but what I think I'm going to do, and what I think will be easier, is to actually assemble the entire plate foam PCB sandwich outside of the case, and then plop it in and finish with the bottom case foams. I think that will be the easiest for us here. So I'm just going to put this over here. Maybe I shouldn't have put it on top. I just placed it gently on top of the back of the case, but hopefully that's not damaging the finish at all. I placed it very gently. Okay, so how's this going to look? Let's think. Here's our plate. This is the front of the plate. Interestingly, the plate, by the looks of it, can actually double up for either the HHKB layout or the WK ANSI layout, because you see the plate has these bottom corners filled in, as well as the large backspace here, which the HHKB layout does not have. But let's also grab our PCB, our case foams here, and figure out how this is all going to go together. So here's the PCB in its anti-static bag. So we will take this out of its bag. We will handle it carefully, of course. Generally, these sorts of things are fine as long as you handle them from the edges, So this is the front of the PCB, and oh, interesting. We've got a little, what is going on here? Huh. some kind of tiny little board, daughter board mounted on here, plugged into the chip on the back, actually manually taped on there. This would be the controller, but I'm not sure what this is about. I wonder if it's maybe the Bluetooth module. I'm actually not sure. But interestingly, we had this positioned on here, and I think we actually had a matching one that could go over here. Maybe it was positioned like this, actually. No, I don't remember. But we're going to need this space for the stabilizers. So both these holes, I believe, are going to have to be exposed. But we'll pop that off of there for the moment. So if we were putting this all together, this would go, well, really, we would have foam under there. So let's grab our case foams here, our various dampening foams. So our sandwich is going to look like how is this to accommodate this somehow? Interesting. Maybe it's to sit on the back side, like so. It's actually not quite clear on this piece, if I'm being totally honest. But underneath that, let's see. Okay, but we'll definitely have this piece, and that will sit behind to accommodate all of the hot swap surface mount stuff there. And then on top of that, we'll have this switch pad. Then on top of that, we'll have this foam. Then on top of that, we'll have this. And that will be our PCB case foam plate sandwich. So what we're going to need to complete our sandwich here is some standoffs and some screws. And the standoffs are right here in this little bag. We did look at those briefly earlier. So let's pop those out. Now it seems to me that we probably have more standoffs than we actually need. IQUNIX has given us, I think, a couple of spares, which I appreciate. I believe it did the same. Well, I believe it did actually with the gasket strips, because I did ruin two of them, actually. I ruined one initially by tearing it, and then a second strip while trying to remove it from its backing. So a word of caution: if you are assembling this kit, be very careful with these gasket strips. The adhesive on the backs is very strong, and if you're trying to pull them off their backing, you might actually rip the foam before the adhesive comes off the backing. Just a point to be aware of. But because they provided two extras, I still had enough, so I appreciate that very much. And again, it's a similar situation with these little standoffs. So these are going to go in our sandwich, and they're going to go right here, these little spots. and they will allow us to screw the plate into the PCB. Now, let's just see if I put this plate on here. Now, where did I put that little rubber piece? Did I lose it already? That was not very wise. I'm sure it's around. I do have another one here, though. I think these are supposed to be little dampening pieces that are supposed to dampen the space bar and also cover this up and protect it under the space bar. So that makes sense to me. So we will use this one and the other once I find it again. Here it is. Okay, so these are also going to be part of our sandwich. That's going to sit there. This is going to sit here, just like so. And then this is going to sit here, like so. So really I can just actually pop those in here, like that. And leave that for when we screw on the plate. Now the other thing I can do actually for now is remove this bottom foam, because it's not going to get screwed into anything. It's just going to sit under this whole assembly in the bottom of the case when the time comes to do that. So really it's a matter of ensuring that our sandwich foam here and the switch pad underneath is aligned with one another and on the PCB properly. And then we should be able to simply pop in these standoffs, pop this on top, and screw it in. Now, the only other thing we're probably going to want to do first is install the stabilizers. We don't want to forget that, because the stabilizers are PCB mounted. So let's do that. Let's do that now before we assemble our sandwich. They're an interior sandwich ingredient. But what I will do is keep this foam on top here while we install the stabs, because I believe they're going to overlap this foam slightly, which means we want to have this foam underneath. Now, I'm not terribly familiar with the HHKB layout, I must admit. I've never used this layout before, and so I think we actually only have stabilizers here on the space bar, here on left shift, and here on enter. The HHKB layout does not actually make use of stabilizers for the upper right backspace, because it's actually just a 1U key in this layout rather than the longer backspace that you might be familiar with. So what I'm going to do is pop these in and double check that we've got them in the right locations. So this, all right, okay, so these stabs actually, they clip in on one end and they screw in on the other. That's good to know. And I'm willing to bet they the small holes and screw in to the larger ones, like so. That would be my assumption here. And you see that they are overlapping this foam slightly. Now, the other thing here is, I'm just sort of working through this as we go. The other thing here is well, let's get these out first. But if we want to do anything under these stabilizers, such as a Band-Aid mod, if we want to wholly mod them at all, now's the time to do that. Now is the time. Although now I'm questioning, maybe it's the other way around. It might actually be that the clips go in the big holes and the screws go in the smaller ones. The screws will only go in one set of holes, so, but I'm thinking it might actually be the other way, because we need clearance. We need clearance for those little dampening rubbers, whatever you want to call them, right? They need to be able to sit on here without interfering with the wire on the stabilizer. And I feel like if we had this way, they might in fact interfere with that wire. This is sort of a bit of a process of elimination scenario, isn't it? Yeah, I don't think that would happen. I don't think that would fit. So I do think here, this is going to be the configuration, the orientation. I feel like most keyboards I see, the spacebar stabilizer, the wire faces north, up like that. But I have seen some where it's the other way. So it's not a guaranteed thing, one way or the other. Okay. So let's get the rest of these stabilizers out and just see what we've got. Just gonna dump them all over here. And you get a nice view of my arm. Okay, so here we have this one and this one, and we have 2 screws for each, nicely matched for the gold hardware. And also we have this tiny little clear washer. I haven't the faintest clue what that's for or where it would go, if I'm being totally honest. So let's just do a little mock installation here. Let's just move these out of the way. And let's just try installing one of these sets here, just to see if the screws go where we think they go. So if the clips go into the big holes and the screws go into the small holes, then that right there should be the correct orientation. So let's take these little screws and let's, oh, that's interesting. These little stabilizer screws have a Phillips head, a little cross there, as you can see. And we've actually not been furnished with a Phillips head screwdriver. Both of these are the little hex screws for the exterior, which means I'm gonna have to go get my little electronics repair kit. And also worth noting that if you are building this, you are going to need a tiny Phillips head screwdriver too. I will go grab that. Okay, so I have here my little Phillips head screwdriver. It seems like a 00 head fits these particular screws just right. And I also got my little magnetic plate here, which helps my screws from running away. I also decided to remove this dampening foam here because I think in this orientation the stabilizers don't actually impinge on the foam. They don't overlap, so I think we can do that. Do this step sans foam just to make things a little easier. So if the big holes are where the clips go and small holes are where screws go, then that should be correct. And for our screws, we're actually going to pop those in from the other side. So take that there, and I can already see that this lines up. That's not going to work at all. Let's brace this from this side, but I can already see that this is going to line up properly, and these are in fact the correct holes, the correct orientation. Come down. Nope. Now, as I said, this is just a dry run. Oh, get back in there. Just a dry run because I would like to spend a little bit of time with the stabilizers before I screw them in. I'm going to be lubing and wholly modding stabilizers and band-aid modding the PCB. And all that should make for a much more satisfying bottom out. Because as you hear right now, when the stabilizer impacts the PCB, it's a hard bottom out. It goes clack, 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 because it's just hitting the hard surface. And this dampening foam doesn't actually cover the stabilizers. There's no foam under the stabilizers. So what I'm going to do is take a couple little pieces of fabric band-aid, cut them out, stick them under where these stabilizer stems impact. Now the other thing I'm going to do is take a little bit of fabric band-aid and stick it in the hole where each end of the wire terminates, along with some lube, and some lube on the corners of the wire here where it clips into the stabilizer. And all that should make for a much softer sounding bottom out and a lot less rattle. And I'm telling you this beforehand rather than showing you, because I'm going to do that off screen. It'll be much easier for me to do that off screen, and it is also a somewhat time consuming process. So I'm going to go do that right now, and when we come back, you will see all of these stabilizers installed and modded. It should look good, and it will hopefully sound good as well. So I'm going to go do that. And just like that, stabilizers are tuned and installed. I hope I'm not disappointing you by not showing you that whole process. It is pretty time consuming and tedious. I always forget just how long it takes. But if you would like to have a really great tutorial on how to wholly mod your stabs, check out YouTuber Hamaji and Neo's tutorial. It's excellent. It's very well done. I'll put a link down below in the video description so you can check that out. And if there's really demand, I could do a separate standalone video one of these days. But suffice it to say, it takes a little while, but I hope the results will be worth it. I really layered on the lube here. I used the standard Kratos 205 G0, which is a very popular lubricant for keyboard parts. And I really like soft stabilizers. I just hope I didn't over goo them. Too much goo makes them feel heavy and sluggish. But I think they should be good. We'll find out once we get the rest of this together, which is what we're going to do now. So I pulled this off in hopes that I would then be able to plop it back on and have it fit properly, and indeed I can. That's excellent. So it does not, except I need to tuck this tab under the wire there. There. That should be good. And that positions it quite nicely for us as well. So this is the surface that will sit on top of the PCB, and the switches will actually be pushed right into this surface, which will provide a dampening layer under each switch. That should be nice. And then from there, we're going to have to pop on the this here, or plate foam, I guess you call that. I'm not quite sure what the technical term is, but it sits in between the PCB and the plate and provides extra dampening there. Remove that air gap. And then I guess at this point we're going to have to pop in these little spacers, these little standoffs. They're going to go in here. 1, 2, 3, and 4. And I reckon the way that's going to work is we take our plate and we pop it on top like so. And then we're going to have to carefully align and screw in each of these little standoffs. And where are those screws? That must be these or these. And I think these are for the gasket strips inside, these little mounts. And so I think these must be for the PCB and plate. So let's pop those out. Did I lose one there? Oh, no, it just didn't come out. We have here 7 of them, which is a little odd because we have 6 standoffs, but actually only 4 that we need to screw in, as far as I can tell. But that's okay. Hopefully that is correct. Now, how are these done? These are the little ones. Just kidding. Change of plans. After we so nicely assembled our sandwich there. It actually looks like these standoffs have to screw in from the back first, which is why, not with those screws though. These screws are definitely, those ones over there, definitely for the inside. But that's why we have 8 of these little ones here. Because I think, if I'm not mistaken. We're going to take the standoff. Let's see how this goes. This is quite a trial and error exercise, you guys. We'll get there, though. We'll get there. I think we're going to take our standoff, put it there. I think we're going to take our little tiny screw, and we're going to put it here. And then we can kind of just screw in our standoff. I know you probably can't see anything there. Just finger tight like that. We can tighten it down with our included screwdriver, just a little bit, like so. And there, the standoff is now installed in the PCB. We're going to do that with 4 of them. And then I suspect we will be building our sandwich again. And then we will screw into our standoffs from the front as well. I think that's how that's going to go. All right, let's do this. Very good. This is an odyssey, friends, an odyssey. But once it's done, my goodness, we're going to have something very special here, I think. Okay, this can come in down here. We can take our standoff and we can just turn it in like so. And if any of this seems intimidating to you, you know, if you're considering building a board like this, maybe this exact one, don't worry too much. It's all within the realm of puzzling out. Think of it like a puzzle. Certainly I've been able to puzzle my way through this just through trial and error. You're not likely to break anything unless you force something, you know. And truth be told, I'm sure there will be assembly instructions for this upon retail release, or once the group buy ships. There may already be. Truth be, I'm actually being quite stubborn. I should have gone to check if there was a guide, but instead I am struggling my way along here, figuring it out on my own, bit by bit. Okay, there is our PCB with the standoffs installed. And now we're going to once again reassemble. Put this layer on for the 80th time. All right, it's looking good. It's looking good. Right there. Everything lines up nicely. Then our intermediary foam right here. Go like so. Like so. And again, our standoffs are there. Fitting in nicely. And finally, our plate. And then, friends, as long as that's all lined up, the foam is nicely tucked in, not sticking out on any of these edges. Sticking out a little bit over here. And then we ought to be able to take these 4 remaining screws and, no, that's the wrong one. Pop them in on the front here. Sure, just drop it in, why not? And if we just push down a bit, I'm hoping it'll bite into the standoff. And there it is, just like so. You have to apply a little bit of force there to do that, because the foam layer provides quite a bit of loft there, And so to get it to bite, you do have to compress it a little bit, just so that the screw can start threading. And of course, this process is what you'll have to go through each time you want to replace the plate. Not so bad once you figured it out. And of course, not the stabilizers or anything like that, just this process with the standoffs and the 8 screws. So that's not too bad at all. Not too bad at all. And there it is. We now have our completed PCB plate foam sandwich with our stabilizers installed, ready to go, and our FR4 plate on top. And I think it's looking pretty nice, pretty good. Hopefully we've done this all correctly, but it feels right, looks right, seems to check out. So let's gather up some of our remaining things here. Just keep our workspace somewhat organized. Those standoffs must be spares. And these screws are going to be what we use on the inside to mount those little gasket strips. If you don't have a little magnetic strip like this, you can always just use little dishes, just tiny little dishes to hold your screws so they don't go rolling away. Okay, so now let's move the screws off to the side, bring our case back in. Now there's one more thing I'm going to do here, and that is remove this whole unit. It should come right out if we use these long wells here to unscrew. Oops, do that. Get it. To unscrew the screws at the end. And the reason we have to do that, think it bit. The reason we have to do that is because, as I noticed when I was doing a little test install of one of these, is that I can place that on there. The screw head that goes in right here doesn't actually screw in straight. It bumps into this if this is still here. But as I'm demonstrating here, we should be able to remove this whole unit. And hope I'm not stripping that screw down there. It's quite tight. There's some kind of grit down there too. There, got it. Okay, I think there we are. This whole unit comes out. We should just be able to flip it over and there. I was wondering where the screw went. Rolled away. We'll put those over there. Keep them separate. And you can see this is just where it was sitting. All right, now we have our bare frame. And this should now allow us to take our plate and PCB assembly, gently plop it in here so it sits happily on top of those nice bouncy gasket strips. And then we will take these right here and we will install each of them in their respective spots. That shouldn't be too bad. Hopefully this all lines up easily. Should do. Should do. He says as it immediately gives him trouble. There we go. There we go. We will go all the way around, popping each of these into place. There. Now, this is an interesting point because we don't really want to screw these in too tight. This is what's going to determine, how firm or soft, at least to some extent, our gasket mount is, right? If you really reef on these, it'll compress the gaskets and you'll have a slightly firmer gasket mount, at least in theory. If you screw them in a little more gently, a little softer, then you might have a slightly bouncier gasket mount. In principle, anyway. In practice, I don't know how sensitive this particular setup is to torquing these screws, but I would bet it does have an impact. So, there, just gently finger tight. Gently finger tight. That's all we're looking for. Don't need to really reef on them. I do wish that I had a magnetized little screwdriver tip. And in fact, I do. Actually, my electronics repair kit does have the appropriate heads for these little, hex star, 6-pointed star screws. So I could be using that, but this is the included hardware, so I figured I'd just roll with that, But, okay. Of course, these are going in gasket side down. Again, we're creating little sandwiches with those wings. So between the gaskets that we pre-installed on the case, and then that we pre-installed on the underside of these little pieces here. Those are embracing the little wings on our plate. And that is what is holding our plate in place. Okay, looking good, feeling good. Halfway there. Immediately, living on a prayer pops into my mind. Okay. Pop that in. Find the hole. There it is. So after this, we reassemble the case, and then in go all the switches, and onto them the keycaps. That part is pretty straightforward because this is, of course, a hot swap board. So there's nothing really complicated to do there in terms of soldering or anything. It's all pretty basic. So at that stage, I'll probably just go and do it myself off camera, just to keep things moving along, since this is only going to be a very long video, my friends. A very long video. Because I know that you are as eager as I am, I bet, to get to the completed product and the sound test. The sound test. Really hoping this is as amazing sounding as I think it's going to be. IQUNIX has very clearly spent a lot of time and effort in making something exceptional here, and I suspect that the sound signature will reflect that. And I spent some time on those stabilizers, so I hope that also manifests in very appealing sound characteristics. Okay. We are so close now, friends. that thunk is the media. Is that even in place? Is that doing its thing? That media knob getting pushed down because it's right under where I'm working here. Is this threading? This is totally not threading. Why is this not threading? Oh, because the whole thing shifted. What the heck? Did it? Or maybe not. This one's a little tricky there. There's that knob again. There, and last but not least, over here. Over here. I guess there's actually technically a couple more steps we gotta do here once we get these installed. Okay, there it is, friends. There it is. Our plate and PCB installed. And I sure as heck hope that this works out. And now that's another point, actually, and maybe something I should have done would be to, I could pop the switches and whatnot onto the PCB before we did this and plug in this unit and test it before installing everything in the case. Some people might recommend even that you do that. I like to live dangerously. I like to be optimistic and assume that this is going to work. So we do have a couple more things to do here. One, this little ribbon cable, we're going to insert it right into here. I believe, pretty sure. This ought to be where it goes. Let's just take a quick look. Yeah, there's a little slot there. It's just a matter of getting it in. I think we can do that gently. It is, of course, a pretty fragile little thing. Oh, look at that. It just captures it. Okay, it's got a little latch. That's pretty fancy. So we just pop that in and then the latch pops down on top of it. Is it secure? It seems pretty little. Huh. No, that's not correct at all. How does this little latch work? Maybe I need to just feed it in a little bit more. If you can't quite see what's going on here, there is this little latch that flips up and down. See? Hopefully. And this little ribbon cable maybe has to insert all the way through. Let's see. Maybe I have to feed that in a bit further. Because if you look on the other end, it's the same situation, a little latch, but the ribbon cable is fed in quite a bit further. doesn't seem to want to feed in any further, so I guess this is just it. I guess this just kind of sits there like that. It doesn't feel extremely secure. Actually, that's much more secure than it was. I can tug on it a little bit and it doesn't move. So we're going to call that good enough. And it is still kind of bumped up here a little bit, but we're just going to have to fold it back like so, I guess, and hope that we aren't damaging it unduly. And then we have this unit, which is going to slide back on here. Let's just make sure we don't have any grit in there before we bring it back on. It should just slot right in there. And we have our 2 screws. Now these could be a bit of a challenge because they got to go way down the end of that, these wells, and getting the screws to actually fall into their holes down there could really suck. Let's see if we can manage it. Okay, we're going to try and feed it in like so. Oh, is that going to work? Nope, fell over. It's not magnetized, but just with mechanical force, I can kind of, not mechanical force, but just like, if I keep the angle right, it'll kind of stay on the end. But then I can't really look in here just to line it up. Just feeling around in the dark. Drats. Okay, I think I've got one. I sure hope this bit. Please. Yes. Good. Good. Yeah, that's a definite challenge. Probably the most tricky maneuver that we've had to do so far. Let's go for the other one here. Oh, first time's the charm on that one. I'm pretty sure. I think I managed to pop it right in there. Yes. Excellent. All right. Down this goes. And we have a couple more things to plug in here, friends. We've got another little latch situation here with a ribbon cable. This is for the battery power and the data coming through the USB-C connector. There, that one's slotted in a little bit more definitively. And then this little latch just goes down. Make sure that it's secure, and it is. Excellent. And I guess we can just kind of have this folded over here. Don't really like it, but don't know how else to do that. And then the battery itself, which we took out earlier. Now this has a little plug. This little plug is going to go right into here. This could be pretty finicky. We're going to find out. I'm hoping I can just do it this way. I'm actually not sure which way up this plug goes, but let's try this. No, so I think this is going to be another one where we need the tweezers. Now, is this the right way up, or is it the other way around? That's going to be the question. There, look at that. I hope that's correct. It kind of went in, popped right in. But if we don't have any successful battery power when the time comes, well, then I guess it's in the wrong way around. Hopefully that's right, though. And let's just get this battery back into where it will sit. It has a little lump on one side, which is going to cause problems if we try and close the top hatch there. So you have to kind of rotate until that lump is not in a place that's problematic. And that's actually kind of challenging, as it turns out. It really doesn't want to. There, I think the lump is in such a spot, hopefully, that we can put the lid back on and have it sit flush. No, that is not it. Okay. This is the lump I'm talking about. I don't know if you can see that, but I've done this a couple times, got it in there, so it's just a matter of finessing it, finagling until you get it to sit flush. Maybe that'll do. You know what? With a little bit of pressure, if we screw this down, that should do the trick. It's not quite perfect, but I don't really know how to do it any better than that. Hopefully we're not squashing anything that shouldn't be squashed in there. Okay, so we will take these and we will pop them in. Oh, that's the wrong one. But yeah, I think you'll be fine once we get these screws in here, providing some pressure, because we're just compressing the foam around the battery here, really. I think that's okay. I think that's okay. Excellent. Excellent, friends. Okay, that's all together. Now, we have a couple more pieces of foam. We have this one, which I reckon that might be wrong. There, that looks about right, doesn't it? Seems like everything fits. Now these ribbon cables, I don't know whether we want them to run under or over the foam, if I'm being honest, but I guess under is as good as anything. I didn't really consider that when I hooked them up. I don't think it'll hurt them to run under the foam anyway, so we'll do that. And then I think this must be the last piece, although I wonder if there's this wouldn't make any sense, would it? No, not at all, because this one has all the cutouts for the hot swap sockets, so I don't see how it could be anything else other than this. I'm unclear as to what the purpose of this little cutout is, aside from maybe somehow heat management, because this sits right over the controller, the brain of this machine. So that could be an aspect of it, or maybe it's something to do with the wireless signal, but I don't understand how that would work either, because it's still going to be sitting here underneath an aluminum plate. Truth be told, I really don't quite know how the wireless works. But we will see. We will see if it works. I sure hope it does. Okay, let's put some pressure on here and screw on the back plate. So there are little rubberized feet that come with this keyboard, and they are in a little baggie over there. But I'm going to hold off on putting those on, because one of them goes here over the battery compartment, and I want to make sure that everything's working with the battery and the wireless and all that before I go ahead and put an adhesive thing on there that's going to block access to those screws that open up that compartment. There's that. There's that. Now, you might have also noticed that I'm getting things a little fingerprinty here. It's pretty inevitable when it's A, really hot in this room, and I'm sweating slightly, and B, when you're handling this so much. The good news is just a microfiber cloth and a little bit of wiping. Oops, don't want to strip this. Will go a long way. Okay, well, we have something. We have something. Oh, that flashing light. I feel like that doesn't bode well. I didn't notice that before. I think this is supposed to be for caps lock. It's an indicator LED, but the fact that it's flashing suggests that something might be plugged in wrong somewhere. Oh, it stopped. Oh no, it's still going. Wish I knew what that was indicating. Well, you know what? We're at the point where we're going to install switches and keycaps and all that. So I'm going to go do that first. I might see about checking out that battery situation just to see what's going on here. But then I will go do switches and keycaps. And so when I return, this board will be together, completed. So I'll see you then. And just like that, the board is complete. And look at this thing. Look at it, guys. I'm in awe. I am so happy with how this turned out aesthetically. I don't think it would be hyperbole if I said I think this is the single most beautiful keyboard I have ever built. And I have some really good news for you. It's not just the looks. It has it where it counts. The sound is incredible, unbelievable. I know I'm kind of hyping it up here, but I think you will agree when we get to the sound test that this is on another level. But before we get to that, and we will get there soon, I just wanted to clear up a couple of things. So I had that issue with that flashing LED indicator light. I wasn't quite sure what was wrong. I thought maybe it was to do with the way I hooked up the battery or something else inside. Turns out that was all fine, but I did take it apart. Well, not entirely, but I opened it up again, disconnected, reconnected the battery and the ribbon cables. I also took a closer look at the stabilizers, and remember that little clear plastic washer, that very small one that we had in the package? Well, turns out there were more of them hiding in that little envelope, just stuck right against the corner. And there were, in fact, 6 of them. They are intended for the screws on the back side of the plate that hold on the stabs. So went in, added those in. But other than that, this is as you saw it in the previous shot there. Of course, I have added some switches and keycaps. So the switches on here, once again, are the TTC ACE switches. They are a lovely linear switch, incredibly stable, very, very smooth, and a delightful thocky kind of bottom out. They were the switches featured on the IQUNIX OG80 Wormhole, which was my favorite keyboard of last year. So beautiful linears, really like them. I did mention at the beginning of the video that IQUNIX has some new linear switches that they wanted me to try out. They're moonstone switches, which they claim are very deep, thocky, smooth linears as well. Unfortunately, they didn't arrive in time for the publication of this video. This is a little bit time sensitive because I will remind you the group buy for the TILLY 60 kit ends on August 31st, 2023. So that will likely be a week from the day of publication of this video, if all goes well. So if you're interested in this, and you should be, make sure you go check out that link down below in the video description right away. I'll be featuring IQUNIX's Moonstone switches in a future video, but for now, we have TTC's ACE switches, which again, no slouch. They are fantastic. And for the keycaps here, I've tapped into Drop's MT3 Cyber keycaps. MT3 Cyber. And they're appropriately named. They've got this cyberpunk aesthetic with this deep blue and then these sort of, I guess, teal legends. I don't know, it's hard for me to tell. I'm colorblind, but I think they're teal. But then we have these bright yellow accent keys, and then our modifiers have all kinds of stuff going on. They've got this fluorescent pink on the top half, and they've got that fluorescent yellow for the mods on the bottom half. And thankfully, the kit covers the HHKB layout, which, as you can see, is a little weird if you're used to a standard ANSI layout. We have some oddities, such as the control key is over here rather than a caps lock, and we have no control keys down on our bottom row. Instead, it's situated here, and if we want caps lock, it's under function tab. You might also see that our backspace has been moved down from the top row to the second from top row here. And the tilde key has been swapped over to the right, and our backslash sits on the outside here. I believe in a traditional HHKB layout, these two keys, the tilde and the backslash, are actually swapped, but this appears to be how IQUNIX has mapped the default, mapping on this board. We've got a shortened right shift, and our function fits in over here. And then our alt keys, rather than being right up next to our spacebar, are instead on either far side. And here we have our OS or Windows or Command keys, depending on your OS. Of course, all this can be remapped. Now, this is the tri-mode wireless version of the TILLY 60 kit. This version can only be remapped using IQUNIX's own software, and at the time of publication, that does not exist yet. At least not that I have access to, but evidently it will be coming out. It occurs to me, well, okay, hold on, one thing at a time. So, if you have the wired only variant of this kit, then you can remap it with QMK. It is QMK programmable. QMK is, of course, open source keyboard firmware. Fantastic to have that support. I wish that support extended to the wireless version. Unfortunately, it does not. But if you're concerned or prefer the QMK version, the wired only version is for you. Now, it occurs to me I didn't actually tell you what the issue with that flashing indicator light was. I said it didn't have anything to do with the build, and it didn't. It was simply a firmware issue because, as I mentioned a few times in the video, this is a pre-release version of the board. You could call it a beta version of this kit. So there are a few, things to be worked out, smoothed over still. And the IQUNIX rep did warn me that I would probably have to flash some new firmware on here before using it. And that was indeed the case. I had a little back and forth with IQUNIX. They sent me the firmware updater and some very simple instructions. I managed to get it up and running in the space of about 5 minutes, so no issue there. And by the time this ships in the group buy, by the time any of you get your hands on this kit, it should be working no problem whatsoever. I, of course, have this plugged in with the, come around the side, the coiled cable provided by IQUNIX with the beautiful aluminum housings on either end and the LEMO connector up there. You can see that aviator connector in the top corner looking real sharp, real sharp. Altogether, I am so pleased with how this turned out. I think the MT3 Cyber keycaps look incredible with this board, especially on the black. We have the 01 up here, which I think just really fits that kind of cyberpunk vibe. And the design is reserved, minimalistic, but industrial. It has a bit of that kind of futurism aspect to it. So I think it looks fantastic and matches these keycaps so well. MT3 is also one of my favorite profiles, so this is just a match made in heaven. And as you will see, it sounds so good with those TTC ACE switches, the nice thocky double shot ABS, MT3 Cyber keycaps, really thick ABS, and then the beautiful dampened, flexy, marbly gasket mount that the TILLY 60 has got going on. I keep teasing it. I said we get to it soon. It's been more than I intended it to be here, talking about the setup here, but I wanted to cover all the bases. I will say I've tested it out in both wired and wireless modes, so the 2.4 gigahertz mode and the Bluetooth mode, they all work perfectly. They paired instantly. I've had no reception issues, no dropped signal or interference or anything of that sort. And the volume control knob works just great out of the box. Pressing it mutes the OS. And it feels so good to turn it. It's got little detents in it, nice substantial notches, but it's got a weighty kind of feel to the action, which I really appreciate. It adds to that feeling of quality. And pressing it also has a nice weighty sound to it. Our little storage case up top here, currently I have the caps for the cable in there and the little extender for the USB receiver. You could, of course, also keep the USB receiver itself in there when you're not using it. And this little lid just rests gently on top and looks fantastic. No RGB, because oftentimes with high-end kits like this, RGB is not an option. And I've never been quite sure why, because you can always turn it off if you don't want it. But I guess the assumption is that when you're at this kind of enthusiast level, this high-end level of keyboard, the assumption is that you don't need a backlight because you're probably a touch typist, and also because whatever keycaps you're putting on are probably not shine through. And that is indeed the case here. So I don't miss it, really. And certainly I think it looks phenomenal as is. I think that's everything I wanted to say. I do believe it is. So without further ado, my friends, it is time. It is time to hear the IQUNIX TILLY 60 in action. And hold on to your butts because it's incredible. Let's give it a listen. And there you have it, my friends. From start to finish, from unboxing through the full build and the final sound test, that is the IQUNIX TILLY 60. And what a heck of a board it is. Like I said, I don't think it would be hyperbole to say this is the most beautiful keyboard I've ever built. And I also don't think it would be hyperbole to say that I think this is the most beautiful sounding keyboard I've ever built. What did you think? I would love to hear your opinions down in the comments on both the aesthetics and the sound. Now, of course, both aesthetics and sound are completely subjective, but for me, from my perspective, in my opinion, this thing sounds phenomenal. It's the marbliest, the thockiest, the most pleasingly, just beautifully tactile keyboard I think I've ever typed on. Certainly the keyboard that epitomizes that marbly sound signature that is so in vogue these days. IQUNIX has done just a pitch perfect job with the acoustic tuning and the gasket mount in this keyboard. And I think paired with those TTC ACE switches and these MT3 Cyber keycaps, this thing just sings. I did an extra long sound test for you there just because I think it deserves it. I thought you would enjoy it. And B, I just really, really love typing on this thing. I just love touching it and feeling and hearing the TILLY 60 in action. It is perhaps my most favorite typing experience ever. Can I say that? Because I think it's true. I think it's true, you guys. Now, I do need to spend a little bit more time with it. I think largely just to really internalize the HHKB layout. You might have noticed towards the beginning of the typing test there, I was kind of going for backspace up on the top row, forgetting that it's down one, just muscle memory, you know. And a couple other things. The control up here has taken me some getting used to, but no doubt I will. And I really do love the aesthetic with the cutouts down here on each side. I think it really does add to making this just look a bit more special than your average keyboard. And the whole design really does. I mean, you're not going to find this design anywhere else. I love this big unit up at the top. I love this standalone volume wheel that, emerges from the top. And just the whole thing, it just really, really looks great. If that's the aesthetic you're going for, and I think pairing it with the right keycaps is important, quite key to getting the most out of it from an aesthetic standpoint. But again, from an acoustic standpoint, I think it's my favorite as well. It just has such a pleasingly marbly sound signature. And, as much as I've typed on a lot of boards that were very satisfying, very pleasing in their acoustics, and, that I wanted to keep typing on, this just feels like it's on a different level. It really does. It just feels like it's in a league of its own. And I've said it before, but my litmus test for how good a keyboard is ultimately comes down to how much I just want to keep interacting with it. How much do I want to keep touching it, hearing it, getting that tactile feedback from it. And I just can't keep my hands off this thing. It is the most pleasing, satisfying keyboard in every way. So Is that enough praise? Have I gushed enough over this kit? It really does feel like a premium kit. And it feels like it justifies its premium price tag. This is, of course, a fair bit more expensive than the average keyboard that I review or unbox on this channel. The tri-mode wireless kit is going to run you, I believe, $270 US. That is exactly what I unboxed and built here today. Of course, the switches and keycaps are not included. They will run you extra. So by the time all is said and done, it's a significant investment. There is no doubt it is a luxury keyboard, a premium enthusiast grade keyboard, right from the packaging and the presentation, the unboxing experience, the build, and then the final product. It is premium. There's no doubt about that. And the price tag reflects it. But as I said, it feels like it's in a league of its own. Now, at this price point, there are lots of other kits out there on the market, no doubt, that have similarly premium aesthetics, materials, acoustics, build quality, but there's something about the attention to detail that IQUNIX has demonstrated here, and the boldness of their design. Maybe boldness is the wrong word. It's actually a fairly reserved design, but the elegance of their design and the just beauty of this build that really stands out to me and that I just love so much. So if you like the look of this, if you like the compact form factor, if you like the sound that you're hearing here today, then I cannot recommend this kit enough. I had no problems with it once I figured out that little issue with the indicator LED over there. But again, this is a pre-release kit. This is essentially a beta version of this board. Any such little remaining issues, I'm sure, will be smoothed out by the time this ships to group buy members, which I believe is scheduled for this October 2023. But you don't have to take my word for it. There is, of course, a link down below, wherever below is for you, below, in the video description, where you can click through and read more about this on the group buy. And once again, if you want to get in on this kit, now is the time, especially if you're watching this right after I put this out, because the group buy lasts until August 31st, 2023. So if you want to get your name in the hat, you better do so quick. I do not know if IQUNIX plans to regularly stock this after the first round of the group buy, or if there will be subsequent group buys. I don't know what their plans are, but if you like what you see, get in on it now. There are, of course, multiple colorways available. This is the black colorway, anodized black aluminum. There's also the dark gray, the silver, and the E-coated white. They all look very, very sharp. And of course, you can match them to the theme with your keycaps. I do wish that IQUNIX offered maybe some brighter, more fun colored options as well. The versions that they have, the colors that they have are quite reserved, but it is a very refined keyboard, and those colorways also reflect that. Perhaps they will, offer some more fun colors in the future. But for the time being, I'm going to leave you all here, having gone through this journey of unboxing, of building, and testing out the IQUNIX TILLY 60. Hell of a board. hell of a board. I, I'm always so hesitant to say my favorite anything ever, because I'm always like, well, that's a very definitive statement. But no, I'm going to say it right here, right now. My favorite keyboard ever, bar none, in terms of the way it looks, in terms of the way it sounds. Mark it on the calendar. The IQUNIX TILLY 60 that we have built here today is something truly special. And with that, I would like to extend my thanks to IQUNIX for sending over the TILLY 60 kit that we experienced here today, that I will continue to enjoy, no doubt, for a very long time to come. And a big thank you to all of you for watching. I hope you found this interesting, and I hope you found it relaxing. And I look very forward to having you back here next time. Farewell for now, my friends. And it's the time of the video where I thank our channel supporters, those who support what I do very, very kindly through Patreon and YouTube memberships. That's why it says special thanks up at the top, because these are special people deserving of thanks. I'm so appreciative of their support. Not only do they get their names here on this credits or thank you page, I suppose is a better word for it, they also get some other fun perks like early access to my weekend videos, and at higher tiers they get to vote every month on a topic for a video on my channel. And at the highest tier, the Fusro tier, they get their names read out in a special spoken shout out in every video. And our wonderful Fusro patrons and YouTube members for this video are K Time, Jake Luffney, Drummer Britt, Angel Garcia, Odinson, Rango Steele, Ragnar Ragnarsson, and Scad Vanna. A fantastic group of folks whom I appreciate so very, very much. Thank you to them for their incredible support, and to all of the fine supporters on this page. If you, dear viewer or listener, would like to be amongst their illustrious ranks, it's very, very easy. The power is in your hands. All you need to do is check out the video description. You will find 2 links down there, one to my Patreon, one to my YouTube memberships. Both offer the same perks, so you can't go wrong either way. Click on through, check it out. I'm sure you will find a tier that is right for you, and then you too can be on this very special thanks page. Once again, a big thank you to our wonderful channel supporters.